Hey YouTube, this is Insane Monster, and well, from the poll from the last video for the What If Lotto, you picked Deku What If. So I reached into the hat and pulled out the next What If, and as you can see, it's based off of the old Disney cartoon Gargoyles. If you don't know what gargoyles are, I suggest looking them up. Hmm. However, in this what if, Deku won't have a quirk known as Gargoyle. Instead, he himself will be half Gargoyle. So before we get into the point where Deku was born and all that, we have to do a little background in the world. While quirks and everything were popping up, there was some worry about the gargoyles across the entire world being threatened by these new superpowered beings. Therefore, Alexander Fox Xanatos, I hope I said that last name right, I really do, but uh, he decides to use his vast fortune he inherited from his parents in order to make structures and bases in the areas where the gargoyles would be safe under in the location protected by the Xanatos Corporation and all that. As for Alexander in the future, considering his grandmother is a quite literal magic goddess, and he was trained by Puck to use his magic, he has a undetermined lifespan, which he decided to explain by his quirk. Obviously, it's a lie, but it makes things a lot more convenient for him. As for Puck, the one who trained him in magic, he actually does serve him as an assistant, disguising himself as the same as in the actual show of Gargoyles. Time marches on until we get to where Inko applies for a job with the Xanatos company's base in Japan, which is where, and yes, there are Japanese gargoyles as seen in the picture in the top right corner of the thumbnail. Now, Inko uh, works there for a couple of weeks, not seeing the gargoyle statues up on the roof, and starts to notice that they seem like, are they switching out the statues of the same gargoyle in different poses? He finds it pretty odd. But as for gargoyles known in the today, most people don't think the statues are actually alive, but they're somewhat carved after heroes, which are gargoyles who officially attained hero licenses, considering the gargoyles' natural nature of being protectors. Okay, anyways, uh, they more or less have to do their jobs as heroes at night due to the fact that during the day they've turned into stone statues. One day, Inko decided to work late and catch up on some work, or, get ahead of the workload at least, and finds out the truth about the statues, about how they burst from the stone and become alive and all that, which is where she meets one of them, who has horns going a bit up close onto his head from around his brow area with green skin. And no, it's not the same one as in the picture, but his name is Hitoshi. If that's his dad's name, I hope I got it right. I honestly sometimes have trouble remembering what his dad's name is since we never see him in the anime or manga. So whatever. But they ended up. She freaked out, obviously, but they introduced themselves saying that there are some people who work here that do know about them, but only those that they believe can be trusted, and they hope that she could trust. Yeah, sorry, that they can trust her with their secret. If bad guys found out about the nocturnal hero's weakness during the day, it would mean some serious trouble for them. He agrees, and as time goes on, Inko and Hitoshi ended up getting pretty close, to the point where they actually decided to get married. And before anybody says anything about the whole thing about the differences they have, you gotta imagine the kind of other people that they have in My Hero and how their bodies work, like the sludge villain and and a whole bunch of other people with mutation quirks. So it really isn't that far of a stretch. Mm. As time as they do get married, Hitoshi decides to take on a last name, Midoriya, which Inko also takes on. Time passes, and surprisingly enough, they find themselves with Inko being pregnant. She starts getting excited, but then quickly realizes that, oh my god, I've seen the eggs in the rookery they have underneath this place. Am I gonna have to? Oh god. Which Hitoshi kind of tries to calm her down. Time passes by, and it didn't take long for Alexander to find out about Hitoshi and Inko's child. He seems pretty interested and goes over there along with Puck. Which, when they get there, they explained how they met and everything to Alexander and Puck, which they find it pretty nice. And they decide to use their magic to check on the child. Apparently, instead of like a normal gargoyle that's hatched from an egg, it's this child is being born whole. Which Inko does have a sigh of relief, being glad she won't have to lay a giant egg, but still wondering what her their child is going to be like. So after all that discussion, Alexander and Puck decide to stay in Japan for a little bit to see how this plays out. Time passes and Izuku is finally born. It's obviously at night, and Izuku being born, he has green skin, the same kind of hair, with 5 fingers instead of 4, like gargoyles have a tendency to have. Though his toes are still the same with the hind legs, he obviously still has the wings and tail, along with the claws and pointy bits of a gargoyle, including similar horns to his dad. Visualize for visual for this Deku is like a combination between the Deku in canon and the gargoyle in and the green gargoyle in the picture, right top right handed. Since it after the birth, they Inko and the Izuku were taking a nap because of everything. And once day rised, sorry, oof, having a little trouble today, but today when the sun rised, Alexander and Puck saw something that they didn't expect. Unlike the other gargoyles, Izuku didn't turn to stone. And yes, that I'm making that possible considering this kind of thing happens a good bit in all not just anime but in other things. For example, Blade in the Marvel universe, all the strength all the strengths of a vampire and none of the weaknesses except for the thirst. And half ghoul from Tokyo Ghoul being stronger than a normal one. So yes, Izuku will not turn to stone during the day, and he will actually be a lot stronger than a normal gargoyle. Inko is completely surprised and doesn't know what to think or what to do about this, but she has the entire day until nightfall to figure out how to tell her husband, Hitoshi. Once the night falls and he breaks free, she tells him what happened with Izuku. He's surprised and honestly, he's actually pretty happy. It's a rarity for a gargoyle to feel the warmth of the sun, considering that when it does rise, they turn to stone. I'm saying this because I'm making it a point since this is based off of a show from the 90s. Either way, uh, they were excited, and the gargoyles all had a party to celebrate the birth of such a unique and new gargoyle. Puck and Alexander join and start celebrating. Puck asks Alexander if he could offer a gift that he think would be very, very interesting. Alexander's knows Puck has a bit of a mischievous side to him, but he just sighs and says, "Go ahead, just don't make it anything dangerous." Puck just says, "Of course," and he disappears and reappears in the rookery, where he takes one of the gargoyle eggs, which has a basically a gargoyle hound, similar to Bronx in the show, where you can see a little picture of him in the bottom right corner of the screen. And yes, that is basically a gargoyle dog. Then Puck reappears in front of Inko, Baby Izuku, and Hitoshi with the egg. They asked, "What is he doing with the egg?" And he said, "It's a bit of a gift." He magics some of Izuku's blood from him and then puts it into the egg. It starts to glow more and more until it changed color to a blue to a green color, similar to Izuku's and Hitoshi's skin. He places it in front of little Izuku, who's on the floor trying to crawl around, which, yes, he can after such a short time, considering he's not only a gargoyle, but a stronger version of a gargoyle. And the moment Izuku goes to touch the egg, he like just puts a claw on it, and then it cracks open, revealing a green gargoyle hound. Uh, Visual wise, he's just a green version of Bronx. And him and Izuku seem to get along just fine. In fact, the little guy, the little gargoyle dog, or I guess gargoyle pup, just doesn't leave Izuku's side. And Toshi asks, "What exactly did you do? Did you just have a have one of them loyal to him?" Puck said, "Not exactly. I actually made it to where he shares your son's ability to not turn into stone during the daylight." All the gargoyles are surprised by that. But Puck then replies with, "Unfortunately, I can't do this with a gargoyle, considering any ramification it may have on what might happen to them." They understand, but they are still pretty excited. So much is going on right now, and if something like this is possible, one day gargoyles won't even have to be won't turn to stone anymore. though they'll be basically half gargoyle. We skip ahead past this. Alexander went back home along with Puck, every now and then checking in with the family, with the Midoriya family. As this goes on, Deku has a right when he gets to walking and talking and all that, he goes and tries to fly like his dad, which ends up with him kind of falling down, not being used to using his wings to fly, telling his Mom, why can't I fly like Dad? She just picks him up and saying, you need to get older and a little bit stronger. You did hover there for a bit, but you just need to get a little stronger. That's all. And then there was the occasional times when he tried and jump off the roof, which is where the gargoyle dog that the family did name Sue. And yes, that's going to be the gargoyle dog's name. Right right before Deku would go to lift off, Sue would just grab him, snatch him by the back of his shirt, and pull him in with his jaws. Which Izuku always got a little frustrated about, saying, "Oh, come on, Sue, I want to practice my flying." And Inko would just show up, "No, this is too high. You could get yourself hurt." Family wise, things do go kind of smoothly. Izuku sleeps during the night and uh, studies during the day, getting to a human sleep cycle. For him, he meets his dad early in the morning for breakfast and after dark for supper, which for his dad would be Izuku's supper would be his breakfast, and Izuku's breakfast would be his supper. That's just how it works. Late one day, when Izuku was about 10, Inko decides to go take Izuku into town and show him around to go shopping. Obviously, Sue tags along, and Hitoshi is actually asleep as a statue during the, so he can't really go with them. They go wandering around, and Izuku is just excited. By now, he has a good handle of flying, at least to a point to where he doesn't ram into things. And his Rookery brothers have been training him, although he isn't wasn't part of the Rookery. If you don't know what a Rookery is, it's basically just a cave filled with eggs where the gargoyle children would hatch from. And no. Izuku doesn't have any blood siblings. It's just what gargoyles call each other whenever they hatch or are born around the same time. Yeah. They go off, and then suddenly they see a large man with muscle fibers bursting out of a bank door with a car swerving around the corner. The man with the muscles on the outside of his body has a little girl about Izuku, the same age as Izuku, with pink hair, skin, and horns. If you don't know who this is, then what is wrong with you? But he hurries up and jumps and grabs onto the car rushing by, taking the girl as a hostage while he also has a giant sack of money. As to what happened before this, well, let's just say there were 20 people in that building. Now there's about 15. So, not including the girl that he just grabbed. As for the guy who grabbed the girl and jumped into the car with the getaway driver with her, it was muscular. They see this, and Inko is just covering Izuku when she stands up and saying, "What the hell just happened?" She turns over to look at Izuku, and he's just gone. And so is Shu, which we switch over to where Izuku is up on the roof already. His strength and speed as a half-breed gargoyle is pretty incredible. So he didn't take him long to get up there. He spreads his wings and then starts flying, telling Shu to protect his mom, which he does obey and goes back down. He flies over the car where the hostage, muscular, and the getaway driver are. He quickly lands on it and hurries to stick his claws into the roof of the car, tearing a gaping opening into the roof. For reference wise of what a gargoyle's strength can do, their claws can like basically cut through solid rock. They can tear through steel with their bare hands. Throwing a car isn't that difficult for them. So there is that. They are pretty freaking strong. And they also have a knack for healing while they're asleep. While Izuku can't turn to stone and heal, when he does fall asleep, he rapidly heals. So back to the story. Izuku tears open the roof, which surprises the people inside. He hurries up and swipes at the guy who has the girl, effectively leaving 3 claw marks across his face. Doing that caused him a lot of pain, even blinding him with the blood going in his eyes. With that time, he hurries up and grabs the girl and flares open his wings to catch the wind from being on top of the moving car. Obviously, Muscular is pissed, saying, "Turn around. I'm gonna rip that kid's head off." But the driver says, "No, we can't. If we do, then the heroes are gonna show up and we'll be surrounded and get caught." Muscular growled at him and said, "Fine." He looked back, saying, "Next time I see you, you're dead, kid." We switch back over to Izuku and the girl he just rescued, where has his claws in his feet and his left hand stuck into the wall of a building. The girl is crying, saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." He says, "It's okay. Look, I need you to wrap your arms around my neck so I can get us to the roof and we can fly back, okay?" She agrees, in she agrees, sniveling into his shoulder. They climb up, and Izuku jumps off the roof to fly back to the to his mom and the girl's parents. Inko is just freaking out, trying to figure out what happened to her son, and the girl's parents are also freaking out, worried sick about their daughter. Which is when everybody sees Izuku flying with her in his arms. When they land, Inko scolds him, saying, "What were you thinking? You had me so worried." And he said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I just couldn't stand by." And the girl's parents ran over, hugging their daughter, telling Izuku, "Thank you for saving her." The girl turned around and said, "Thank you again," introducing herself as Mina Asido. And Izuku said, "It's okay. You don't have to mention it," introducing himself as Izuku Midori. They shake hands, and after things dial down a little bit, the heroes and the police scold Izuku a bit for acting so recklessly, but, but congratulating him and thanking him for saving the girl. Obviously, they but the Izuku and Mina wouldn't meet up until about, if I'm not mistaken, since they're 10 years old, 5 years later. After that incident, Hitoshi scolds his son for being reckless, but he's also said he's proud of him for acting swiftly in the crisis and prioritizing the life of that girl rather than going on and catching that dangerous villain. So after that, they got a call from Alexander congratulating them for their son's accomplishment, which he still does get grounded for what he did, obviously. But after that, there was some talk about him learning more about how things work with normal humans, which Izuku is more than thrilled about. As for where he'll live, uh, Alexander Xanatos decides to let Inko be the landlady of a apartment complex that he owns in Japan. As long as she keeps things up, then there shouldn't be a problem. And as a bonus, Zuko will be allowed to attend human school under the cover that his appearance is caused by a mutation quirk called gargoyle. And obviously, Shu's going with them. Hitoshi does go along with them, doing his hero work at night, though he ends up having to stay in their apartment during the day as a stone statue, which, as you can imagine, uh, requires Inko or Hitoshi to sweep up the stone skin that he breaks out of when night falls every single time he wakes up, which they just kind of accept as just being part of their lives. But Izuku ends up going to a normal school when he's introduced to the class. Uh, the teacher tells them to come in, and the students just see a tall, green skinned, horned tailed, winged, with claws on his feet and hands, walking into the classroom with their, like, astonished by his appearance and also thinking that it is pretty cool. And when he's asked about his quirk, he replies with, "My quirk's name is Gargoyle." They're confused and wondered what is a gargoyle. He explains that he explains that well, normally people know them as the as statues from that of well, I guess you could say winged statues that are known to be said to ward off evil spirits and protect the house that they're mounted on. Which they do remember those things and even recognize his look, saying that he looks like some of those nocturnal heroes. Which he does say, well, yeah, my dad's actually one of them. Which they're pretty excited to have a hero's kid there. So Izuku does get along, but obviously Bakugo still kind of challenges him with fights and all that. So he does get some practice in with like sparring with Bakugo. They become somewhat good friends, although Bakugo's attitude is still kind of the same as in canon, very aggressive and can't express himself very well with others. He even told Izuku even told Bakugo about some of the stories that he was told about Goliath and his clan. Uh, with uh, with Bakugo thinking that these are just fantasy stories, considering the kind of things that they do, like going to an island called New Olympus, a magic island where 1 hour there is an entire day in the rest of the world. And yes, that is a part of the Gargoyle series. It's pretty interesting, but and he also explains that his favorite was the leader of their clan Goliath. And obviously, Shu always kind of hangs out with Izuku, though when it comes to school, they had to do a little bit of arrangement where at least Shu will just stay in the courtyard or something of the school. As long as he doesn't do anything to harm people, then he's cool there. It took a lot of convincing, but considering Zuko's dad is a hero, it wasn't that hard. Time goes by, and Izuku is about 6 feet, I'd say, in height. Like I said, visually, he's a cross between Canon Izuku and the Green Gargoyle here. He wears normal school clothes, though they have to be tailored and adjusted for his body so his wings can fit through some holes in the back along with his tail. And obviously, he ain't wearing shoes with the gargoyle feet. And this, he just lives a somewhat, well, a normal life for the My Hero universe for a middle schooler and all that. Still being a big hero fan and a fan of All Might, obviously. He even trains with his dad, especially when it comes to combat in the more modern age, in indoor combat as well as outdoor combat, considering gargoyles are historically known as protectors and warriors. They train for combat a good bit to make sure that they're at least prepared to handle themselves just in case something happens. So this goes on until the beginning of the anime and canon. And this was part 0 of What If Deku Was Half Gargoyle. So, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you also, the second part of this will be coming out as the next video, and as the same in the last video, another poll will be added for the What If Lotto. If the majority vote is for Asta, I will draw a paper from the Asta hat. If it's Deku, I'll draw a piece of paper from the Deku hat. But the poll will only show up in the next part of this video, which will be part 1 of What If Deku Was Half Gargoyle. Like I said, remember to like, comment, subscribe. Remember to hit the bell for notifications. And later, everybody. Have a good night.